Planet Earth is blue. Chapter 1. Brigitte was gone, and Nova was broken. Nova hadn't wanted to run away from the last foster family. They were nice enough. Sure, it wasn't easy sharing one bedroom with 4 other girls in 3 sets of bunk beds. There was no privacy for Brigitte, who liked her space, and there was no room for hand flapping or bouncing, which Nova liked to do while pretending she was in space. Plus, there was a rule no shower could last more than 8 minutes, and they weren't allowed to watch TV, listen to records, or drink anything with caffeine. But there had been hot oatmeal in the mornings, cold lemonade with lunch, warm blankets at night. Nobody yelled bad words or spanked them. Nobody made Brigitte scrub floors like Cinderella. Nobody called Nova Dumbo because she couldn't speak. Most importantly, they were together. Brigitte hated it anyway. "I'm out of here," she kept saying. "I can't stand it another day. I'm losing my mind." Nova wasn't worried then. She knew they'd end up somewhere else eventually. When the time came, though, leaving was different. No social worker to transport them, no paperwork for adults to sign. Brigitte didn't even glare at the failed foster parents and say goodbye. Nova and Brigitte just piled into a car and drove away. This was not their routine, which made Nova's tummy hurt because she hated goodbyes, but she hated deviating from the routine even more. "Don't worry," Brigitte had kissed Nova's forehead. "I'll take care of you. I've always taken care of you." Now Brigitte was gone, and Nova was worried. She rocked back and forth on her knees, hugging NASA Bear to her chest, and glanced around her newest bedroom. The first room she'd ever had all to herself. Diagonal from the door was a double bed with a fancy carved headboard. The mattress was soft, and the pillow was softer, and the blanket was plush and purple, covered with tiny silver stars. It was too big. The bedroom was long but narrow. It had 2 windows, one facing the front yard and the other facing the backyard. Out back, there was an in-ground pool covered up for the winter. Out front, a pathway leading up to the doors were guarded by 2 giant stone lions. At midnight, the town switched off the streetlights, which made Nova happy because total darkness meant she could see the Big Dipper lurking along the horizon, where the sun set shortly before dinner each night. It was too nice. The upstairs bedroom was had a tub long. The upstairs bathroom had a tub long enough to stretch out in. The kitchen always smelled of fresh baked brownies and banana bread, and the color television had a remote control. Most rooms had wall-to-wall carpeting and were lots of windows through which the sun shone. It was too much like a home. Nova didn't want it to start feeling like home. Brigitte always warned, if it feels like home, it's harder to leave. Nova hugged her teddy bear tighter, trying to picture her big sister in the bedroom beside her. What had Brigitte been thinking, deciding to run away like that? It was already January '86, and in August she'd be 18. Then Brigitte could raise Nova herself, like they'd always planned. Only Brigitte was gone, and Nova was lonely. "You'll start school on Monday," new foster mother Francine warned during breakfast. Nova hated new schools more than she hated new foster families. New schools always spent the first week or 2 testing her and always came to the same conclusion: cannot read, does not speak, severely mentally retarded. Brigitte hated that word retarded. "My sister's not dumb. She'll tell anyone who'd listen. She's a thinker, not a talker." The truth was, Nova rarely spoke, and when she did, she had difficult controlling her volume, or so sometimes she'd be whispering on a crowded playground, or the other times she'd be shouting in church. Even when she did manage to find the right sound, forming the whole word was its own challenge. Or she'd say O or K, but not okay. She would say wa or ter, but not water. She could say chew or key, but not cookie. And sometimes when she tried to say a simple word like cat, an entirely different word would come out like boo, which didn't make sense to anyone, not even Brigitte. Most of the time, Nova didn't bother to speak at all, rocking back and forth on top of the fluffy blankets in the bedroom she had all to herself. Nova wondered for the 2 millionth time where Brigitte had gone and whether she would keep her promise to return in time to see her first teacher skyrocket into space. No matter where we end up, Brigitte had said, even if we have to separate for a while, I'll come back to see NASA make history, okay? I wouldn't miss it for the world. Both sisters had been dying to see Challenger launch ever since President Reagan announced the contest to find the perfect teacher over a year ago. Nova was glad to be waiting and was almost over. She wondered if Brigitte was glad too. Nova kissed NASA Bear's belly, his plastic bubble astronaut helmet pressed against her forehead. He had been a gift from her mama, who had very strange ideas about how the 1969 moon landing actually happened. Government orchestrated, Mama liked to say, all on a soundstage, babies, thanks to movie magic. Did you see the way the astronauts' boots kicked up dirt? The way the flag waved? There's no wind on the moon, girls. How was that? How was it waving? It was the government orchestrated. That's how. That means the government made it up to trick us. Their mama thought a lot of things were government orchestrated. Nova, honey, foster mother Francine called through the cracked open bedroom door. How about we go to the store and get you some school clothes? You've almost grown out of everything the last family sent. Most of what the last family sent wasn't even hers, but they needed to seem like they had been providing more than fraying sweaters and 2 little stretch pants. So they sent along a big cardboard box full of clothes their other foster daughters were growing out of. They kept the heavy winter coat they'd bought for Nova and all the slouch socks Brigitte had given her for her 12th birthday. The only clothes in the box Nova would willingly wear were 3 pairs of PJs, 1 pair of red overalls, and 2 t-shirts she inherited from her sister. The first had the words "One Small Step" on the front with the moon landing date on the back, July 20th, 1969. The second was a David Bowie's 1978 World Tour, black with red and blue print, which they found at a thrift shop. Nova's other possessions included NASA Bear, Brigitte's Walkman, and her favorite mixtape, and the little people figure who looked like an astronaut, the one they'd stolen from the previous foster home where they had many Fisher-Price sets no one would notice. A small spiral notebook, The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, a few faded photographs, a box of 64 Crayola crayons, and a silver-banded mood ring with the sky blue stone that didn't change color anymore. Francine and Billy had given Nova a toy box for her first ever toy box in which she kept her treasures. It was a large wooden crate with Joni Rose stenciled across the top in a flowery carnation pink letters. It belonged to our daughter when she was little, Francine had explained. Pink is Joni's favorite color. She's so happy to have you here. Nova, she hated being the youngest and the only girl. Growing up with 3 big brothers was lonely, I think. James, Joseph, and John. Those were the 3 big brothers. Shortly after Nova arrived at the Wests, Billy had pointed to the picture of the boys hanging out on the wall above the television. My 3 sons, he'd said proudly, Dr. James, Carpenter Joseph, and Recreation Director John. Nova couldn't ask where the 3 brothers had gone, whether they disappeared like Brigitte. Maybe they went to the moon, thought Nova, picturing the boys from the picture floating weightlessly above a crater. She imagined James with a stethoscope and Joseph with a hammer, but didn't know what a recreation director might have. Every Christmas, Joni wrote Santa asking for a little sister, but we had our hands full then. Nova glanced down at Francine's hands. They weren't full anymore. They were placed upon a wooden lid and in the toy box. Her nails were long and shiny, and she wore 3 rings, 2 sparkly gold ones on her left hand to show that she was married, and 1 thin silver band on her right pinky. Her fingers were over the letters spelling Joni Rose, like there was something in the box much more important than toys. When the weather gets nicer, Francine had continued, we'll buy some wood stain and paint and have it redone in your name, with your name. Nova stared at the toy box and imagined her name in the place of Joni's. Nova Bianvenzina. It was the perfect name. Brigitte said so, and Brigitte never lied. Nova, asked Francine again, poking at her head into the bedroom, tugging Nova free from the memory. Clothes shopping? Nova shook her head 1, 2, 3, 4 times. She did not want to go clothes shopping. She hated trying things on. Pants that pushed against her belly and socks that touched her ankles and shirts that itched with itchy tags and dresses. Oh, the dresses. Nothing could be worse than something she'd had to wear tights under. Tights stretched from her waist to her feet and always had a seam line across her toes. She hated lines across her toes. Francine stepped all the way in the room, which made Nova hug Nasa Bear tighter. Mrs. Steele told me how you feel about clothes, but we need to find at least enough to get you through the first week of school, right? You can't wear jammies forever. Mrs. Steele had been Brigitte and Nova's social worker for the most of the years they'd been in foster care. She was okay, except she used the R word a lot. Cannot read, does not speak, severely mentally retarded. Brigitte hated the R word. Nova let out an involuntary squeak. That happened sometimes. She couldn't help making noises, even when she was trying her hardest not to. Francine sat cross-legged at the foot of the bed, facing Nova. I'm sorry. I know it must be difficult, but Billy and I are so happy to have you here. So is Joni. Billy was Francine's husband, Nova's new foster father. Joni was their daughter, home from college on winter break. Said Nova, nodding her head over ever so slightly. She imagined what Brigitte would say. Suck it up, Supernova, 'cause you can't go to school naked. Naked. Nova's lips curled into a smile, then parted to put out a high screech, followed by several hiccupy squeals. Her body twitched, her hands flailed. Brigitte loved the word naked. Are you kidding? Asked Francine, her smiling growing into a grin. I haven't heard you laugh before. I love your laugh. Francine laughed too. For some reason, so Nova kept right on flailing and twitching and laughing about Brigitte and naked. She laughed until tears stung her eyes. She used Nasa Bear's matty fur leg to wipe them away. Naked. Oh, Brigitte. Come with me, Nova. You can pick out whatever's comfortable. If you want to buy nothing but t-shirts and overalls, that's fine. No dresses, I promise. Francine stood holding out her hand. Nova mulled this over for a moment before taking Francine's hand and allowing herself to be led out to the bedroom, not loosening her grip on Nasa Bear. Maybe clothes shopping with Francine wouldn't be too bad. Maybe they could buy slut socks.